there was enough time for them to make a run if they could just chip away, get that lead under 10 points at the 10-minute mark, which they did. I mean, they went on a nice run really to get back into the game and get it to within 3 points. And then from there, it was really a battle of wills the final 10 minutes. And I thought, the key of the game was just Florida matching Houston's physicality, coming up with the defensive stops that they needed, getting to the foul line, and finding a way to win at the end on a defensive play, which is somewhat ironic because, last year defense was a struggle for this team, and it just showed the growth they made on both ends of the floor. And that's what it takes to win a national championship, is to be able to, win games on both ends and get those stops when you need them.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was a lot of talk throughout the tournament, and we saw it time and time again with Houston's defense and what they were able to do. And they really, it seemed like early on, threw the Gators off their game. They didn't shoot well. Walter Clayton had one attempt for much of the first half, and then they kind of figured out a way to adjust, and also to make those key defensive stops that they needed to down the stretch.
Yeah, well, I say they out Houston. They out rebounded them. They played more physical. They came up with the defensive stops. Offensively, it was a little bit of a struggle early on, but this coaching staff has shown a really an acumen to make adjustments to what defenses are throwing at them. And I felt like, Garrett, that was, the second half, that was really the key. They kind of found some things that worked and stuck with them. They went to the free throw line. They attacked the basket. They got Houston's big guys in foul trouble a little bit. And it added up to, being able to pull through down the stretch in a really tight ball game, high drama throughout. And it's kind of funny because, the first two national championships I covered back in 06 and 07, those games didn't come down the wire like this one. I mean, those teams just kind of, ran away and hid, and
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, good afternoon to you, and welcome into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local, fox35orlando.com, and also on YouTube. It is 4 o'clock. That means it is time for today's Top 4 at 4, where we break down 4 of the big stories that we're tracking in the Fox 35 newsroom today. And joining us live now for today's Top 4 at 4 is Fox 35 News anchor LuAnne Sorrell. And LuAnne, thanks for being here.
Good to be here. Thank you.
Do you like our orange lights here today? It's setting the mood for the Florida Gators and a national championship.
I love the orange, yes. How about that game last night? Exciting. A total nail biter. They won by 2 points. It came down to the last play, the last few seconds. It was a good one.
Well, and if you went to bed at halftime, you missed all the good stuff.
You missed out, definitely, yeah.
Because it was a tale of two halves. I mean, you could have written them off for much of that first half, but then the second half came on strong. Yet another comeback by that team, and greeted by a big crowd on campus this afternoon.
Yeah, fun day today. The Gators made it back to Gainesville, and there were thousands of fans and students to greet them. You see, they have some brand new hardware there, some wood and gold, a little trophy, national trophy to be exact. So yeah, a very exciting time up in Gainesville as the Gators came home. They have not won a national championship in 18 years. My husband's a huge Gator fan, Garrett, so he pointed out to me that UF is now the only team in college sports that has won 3 basketball championships and 3 football championships.
It is impressive,
yes.
I will tell you that. And to be the only school on that list is certainly something. So this afternoon we did hear from head basketball coach Todd Golden, who addressed the crowd at that rally just a little bit ago.
Thank you all so much for being here right now. I know you guys had to be out here for a while. You guys have been amazing for us all year. Your support has carried us to the highest level. I know myself, my staff, and our players appreciate you all more than you know. Go Gators, baby.
Coach, how did it feel when Alex Condon jumped on the basketball last night to end the game?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
How does it sound to be national champions?
Incredible. Absolutely amazing. These guys deserve it. They were amazing all year. 36 wins. One of the best teams of all time in college basketball standing behind me right here.
And so what a season it was. What a way to cap that off with a national title.
Absolutely. When you first popped up that clip, I thought that was a student. I was like, oh, wait,
I know.
the coach looks so young, but man, he is a great coach.
Well, I think they were saying he's the youngest coach
Oh, really?
or one
To
of
win a
the
championship?
youngest, at least one of them. I don't want to say for sure
Yeah.
the youngest, but definitely among the youngest coaches
Well,
to win a
and
national
he
championship.
looks even younger than his age, so
Yeah.
when he hits 50 or 60, he'll be looking even better, right?
Yeah.
Because men get better with age, of course. But yeah, he looked good. He coached good.
Yeah.
It'd be fun to be in Gainesville right now and be celebrating, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, and the celebrations aren't done yet. They
No.
said today they've got something planned for Saturday, or currently
Great.
planning for Saturday. They're going to release the details. They said probably in the next 24 hours.
Oh,
So
awesome.
the party's not over yet. Going to
Yeah,
be
it's
something
just
big on
beginning.
Saturday. It sounds like maybe at the football stadium
Oh,
even.
that'd be cool.
So let a lot of folks come and
Yeah.
be part of that.
Pack
So
the swamp.
yeah, so that'll be exciting times ahead still as the celebrations continue. Story number 2 today, and that is Congressman Frost of Orlando saying he is launching an investigation into potential conflicts of interest when it comes to Elon Musk and dealings with NASA.
Yeah, our Florida congressman, as well as another congressman, say they are looking into all of the contracts that Elon Musk has gotten from NASA since President Trump has taken office. According to Maxwell Frost, his figures, he said that Musk has gotten at least $38 billion in contracts, loans, subsidies, and tax credits from the federal government and state governments since February of 2025. So it's interesting because he's in charge of cutting government spending, but Congressman Frost and several others are going to look into if he has some sort of conflict of interest with the contracts he and his businesses are getting from the federal government.
And we had Congressman Frost on Fox 35 News Plus earlier today, and he said the main thing that they want to find out is about, or get some answers to, is because this money, they say there's no transparency with it. And so that's something that Congressman Frost had talked about earlier today.
Well, right now in the federal government, we have ethics laws and requirements that ensure that people who have a conflict of interest with certain government agencies are not involved in the disbursement of money, taxpayer money, to different companies, third-party vendors, corporations, and contractors. The big issue here is, of course, Elon Musk is running Doge, and Doge has its tentacles in the entire federal government, completely deciding who's getting money and who's not getting money. And the problem here is Elon Musk receives billions and billions of dollars to date, about over $38 billion from collaborations with NASA through SpaceX and some of his other companies as well. There's zero transparency. The president has said, well, the transparency you have is that you have to trust us. And Elon Musk says the transparency is, I'm going to post on X what we're finding. That's not enough. I'm not going to trust this unelected billionaire to tell us if he actually has a conflict of interest. And so we are beginning this investigation with NASA to ensure that taxpayer money is not being abused and used in the right way.
So certainly something to keep an eye on, and we'll see what comes from that, obviously, in the very early stages. I know they just sent a letter out to NASA for some documents, some information, and that kind of thing. So we'll see where things go from there.
Yep, just getting started.
Story number 3 today, in the Volusia County Sheriff, Mike Chitwood, greeting another suspect at the airport.
Yes, he said, welcome to Central Florida again, to another alleged criminal. This is 59-year-old Demetria Latimer. She's from Michigan. She's accused of scamming a Volusia County man out of $52,000 with a Facebook marketplace sale. She's also accused of being involved in a bigger money laundering scheme. But yeah, you see the sheriff right there greeting that woman at the airport. She appeared in court today, and the sheriff was saying, you know what? If you're a criminal, stay away from Volusia County, because when you come here, I'm going to lock you up, and you're not going to get away with crime here in Central Florida.
And not the first time we've seen him welcome
No.
suspects at the airport like this either.
No, he's done it several times. You may remember there were some anti-Semitic threats made from people in other states, and he tracked them down. had him extradited to Volusia County, and he greeted them at the airport as well.
Yeah, so certainly it makes a statement, I think, when you get off the plane and there you are, and he always has some strong words for them as well.
A little intimidating.
Well, story number 4, end on a little bit of a lighter note here as Epic Universe announcing some preview days for pass holders.
Yeah, it's exciting. You know, Epic Universe isn't going to open until May 22nd to everyone, but Universal announcing today that some very special guests are going to get a preview of that park starting April 17th. Now, there's quite a few different ways that you could get into the park early, but as you said, Garrett, if you're a season pass holder, if you're an annual pass holder, and even if you stay in a Universal hotel, you can get in a little early. So this is exciting news, especially for us who live in Central Florida. You can, pop into a hotel. A lot of people already have annual passes. So we have all the information on the Fox Local app if you want to learn more about that.
All right, exciting times ahead. A lot of news been coming out about Epic Universe, and I think folks are getting excited. David Martin had some really cool pieces.
Right.
I know
How
he got
incredible was that?
Yeah, really cool to get to see that. He had a pretty glowing review for many of the things. When I talked to him yesterday, we had him on Fox 35 News Plus at 11, and he was saying the Stardust Racers is his favorite roller coaster in Orlando.
Which park is that in?
That's in Celestial Park. So the first one, kind of the first one that you enter into before you go off into the other worlds.
Yeah, he had so many interesting stories. He went to all 5 of the different worlds. He went to the hotel. So if you missed that on our air, you can always go to the Fox Local app and watch all of his stories. I thought it was really interesting. And he said, before you go to Super Mario World or Isle of Berk, watch the movies or read the books so you're more in tune with what's going on.
Exactly. Make it probably mean a little bit more.
Yeah.
Well, that's today's Top 4 at 4. Real quick before we go to break here, here's a live look at the stock market after it closed in green for most of the day.
It started off so well.
I know, promising, but then closed down. But still not as bad as some of the days we've seen
No,
lately.
I think this is, the 4th day in a row that we have seen the Dow in the negative. So we're hoping to turn things around soon.
Let's hope. Fox 35's LuAnne Sorrell, we appreciate you joining us. That is today's Top 4 at 4, and we'll be right back after.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Noah Berggren joins me now, or at least he was there just a split second ago. And he is back. Noah, we appreciate you joining us here on Fox 35 News Plus this afternoon, and you got a live picture of the University of Florida campus. Beautiful day out there.
Very much so, Garrett. And, I'm sure as a Kentucky fan, you're proud the SEC won the title, are you not?
Absolutely. First SEC national championship since Kentucky won it in 2012. So, fun fact.
So now we got to get UK back there, right? Maybe next year?
That's right. I'm hoping.
And, it's going to be great weather there the rest of the week at Alachua County, Garrett. I'll get out of the way so you can see the full picture. I mean, it is a bright blue sky there right now. Now, it's interesting that the sky is a lot clearer in Alachua County than it is in the rest of the area because we've got a front that is still kind of just draped across central Florida now. We talked about this last night, how it would be clearer north and a little cloudier further south, but it is pristine now up in Alachua County. Temperature so far today just 74 in Ocala, 73 in Tampa, 74 in Orlando, 76 in Melbourne, 85 in West Palm, 84 in Miami. Temperatures right now we're in the 70s with the exception of West Palm at 81. Humidity is coming down, Garrett. You look up in the panhandle in North Florida, the dew points are in the 30s, and that very, very dry air is pushing its way south. Still hanging on to some humidity from Orlando down to South Florida, but the fall and winter-like air up north is working this way. So a couple of notables for you tonight. A few lingering showers tonight, then again on Wednesday, especially south of the city. Another cold front comes in late Friday, and that cold front late Friday might have a shower with it, but I don't think much. It'll knock the temperatures down substantially heading into the upcoming weekend. And it'll be close to record low temperatures Saturday night into Sunday morning with many places probably in the 40s and 50s, if you can believe it. All right, temperature now 70 in Melbourne, 76 in Sanford, 74 Ocala, 68 Palm Coast, 69 New Smyrna. We had some showers earlier in Brevard County. You can see on the high-res visible satellite, there's your front, which is now across the Bahamas to South Florida. Still some clouds lingering in the northern part of the front, but look up at Tallahassee in South Georgia. Obviously, it's Masters Week if you're a golf fan, like I am. It's going to be very nice weather in Augusta for the next couple of days, but this dry air mass will eventually be here by Thursday. Still have a couple of clouds linger, I think, tomorrow, and then by Thursday especially, this front you see there will finally be far enough south. We do need rain. We haven't had a lot of rain in the last couple of days and weeks, really even few months. A reminder, the rainy season generally is June to September, where we average 7 to 8 inches of rain per month. The average historically is about 52 inches of rain. Speaking of your Kentucky Wildcats, Garrett, it is 39 now in Lexington. So I know you're still semi-new Floridian here, as am I, but I don't know about you, but 39 this time of the year, this late, yeah, no thanks. I'll take the
Right.
75 in Orlando, but 30 in Chicago. I mean, Garrett, we're almost in mid-April, and we're still talking wind chills in the 20s and 30s in the mid-afternoon, even in the Midwest. So this is a pretty notable cold air mass to our north. Much of the cold will miss us. We won't really get a piece of it until this weekend. Again, as I told you, Saturday night to Sunday morning, North Florida, 40s for sure, and some 50s, low 50s in Orlando. But after all the severe weather of last week, it's pretty notable how cold relative to average it is across a big part of the country.
Yeah, I don't want any piece of that. Definitely enjoying the. We'll enjoy the little bit of a cool down here, though. Back in the 70s and that kind of thing. Nice to have a more of the spring-like temperatures back before we continue our dive into summer. But any colder than that, no thanks.
Yeah, Garrett, we're at that point of the year where these cold fronts are on borrowed time. Generally about this time of the year is when we stop getting these cold fronts into Florida. So it's very possible that this weekend is our last until the fall of this year.
All right. So what you're saying is make the most of it and don't complain about it.
If you like the cool weather, I know some people, 50s at night in Florida, that's chilly. So,
it is
this might be a split decision.
All right. Fox 35 Storm Team meteorologist Noah Berggren, we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, sir.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after this.
watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer, and thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon, live on Fox Local, fox35orlando.com, and also on YouTube. We've been following a lot here on Fox 35 News Plus and on Florida Live, the drama surrounding the Tampa Bay Rays and their future in Tampa, in St. Petersburg, in the Bay Area, in Florida, what's going on with their owner, a lot of questions surrounding the future of that team. Earlier today, I spoke with J.P. Peterson, who's the host of the J.P. Peterson Show, about the drama surrounding owner Stu Sternberg specifically, and his relationship that really appears to be getting even more sour with the fans and with the leaders, elected officials across the Tampa Bay region.
Well, it's a very interesting relationship right now between the fan base and the owner. He is not well liked universally. I think that's pretty much the feeling. You have fans, many of them that listen to my show and have for a long time, that are showing up with signs, sell the team, that are yelling and screaming at him as he's in the stadium to sell the team. A couple of my good friends were at a game the other day, and people were yelling, sell the team, and Stu was blowing kisses at them, somewhat taunting them, which is not a good look for Major League Baseball. I've covered this team since its inception in 1998, and I've never seen anything like this. They've had two very bad owners in Vince Naimoli and Stu Sternberg, and there's a lot going on right now. But with this particular time, it's as toxic as it has ever been. And what's interesting about it is the team on the field has done well. They won their first two series. They've had 6 consecutive sellouts at Steinbrenner Field. The fan base is very excited about the team. They love the team. They love the baseball side of it. But the ownership is reviled by the fan base. And it goes back to this long stadium saga, the way Stu Sternberg has run this team, and it's put a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouth.
Yeah, this stadium saga has been a long time coming, kind of building to this point. So what's your take on where things stand right now?
It's very interesting. Right now, Major League Baseball, and this is reporting that I have done, ESPN has done, The Athletic has done. Major League Baseball is very upset with Stu Sternberg right now. He is not very well liked by other owners, and it's because of the way he's run his team. He gets approximately $60 million worth of revenue sharing from other owners, and has been for the 20 years that he's owned the team, almost 20 years that he's owned the team. And they're upset because they want him to get a new stadium. And the feeling has always been it's Tampa's fault, it's St. Pete's fault, it's everybody, Montreal's fault, it's everybody else's fault. But it's pretty apparent right now, and it's something I've been talking about for a long time on my show, that Stu Sternberg is the problem. He was just given $700 million upfront money to build a stadium in St. Pete, another $141 million in infrastructure around the stadium, and another what's estimated at $700 to $1 billion in real estate, what would have been real estate gains and profits, and he still wouldn't pull the trigger on the stadium in St. Pete. So either he doesn't have the money or doesn't have the will to get the deal done. And now the people on the Tampa side that he's dealt with back in 2018, 2019, that he left at the altar there, don't want to do a deal with them. The county commission does not want to do a deal with them. The Pinellas County Commission does not want to do a deal with them. The city of St. Pete, the mayor that rolled out the red carpet, Ken Welch, they will not deal with them. It says that bridge has been burned. He has burned every bridge in the Tampa Bay area. And so it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to get that deal done. Now, the thing is, the silver lining is here in Tampa Bay is there are at least 3 groups, maybe 4 groups that are lining up to buy this team. I've spoken to 3 of them, the leaders of 3 of them, and they have the money. And one group in particular that is kind of remained anonymous. I know who they are. I know the type of people that are involved in that. We're not giving out those names. They don't want their name to become public because that could screw up the deal. But they are what I would call Tampa Bay's elite businessmen. They have very deep pockets. They want to build a stadium in Tampa, not St. Pete, because Tampa is obviously the proper place for it to be. It's the middle of the market. There's 2.4 million people within a 30, 40-minute drive. The 10th largest media market with the 15th largest media market, Orlando. 70 miles down the road. Manfred has said, Commissioner Rob Manfred has said many times that they are not leaving the Tampa Bay market. They love this market for obvious reasons. The market size, its proximity to Orlando, the history that's already been made here, and they believe it's a huge part of what baseball needs going forward. So it's kind of a double-edged sword right now. Stu Sternberg is being very difficult about a possible sale, but there are groups that want to buy the team and build in Tampa, have worked with the folks in Tampa and had discussions not only with Tampa's leaders and Hillsborough County's leaders, but the governor has been involved as well. And they really believe that they can get this deal done on the Tampa side. So it's to me, it's the same issues that there's always been. It's one person, it's Stu Sternberg. And one of the other problems here is the other owners, they have to get a stadium deal done in Tampa. Once they do that, they can expand and have 2 more expansion cities that are waiting to go. And that's another $4 billion into the pockets of the owners in expansion fees. So obviously they want some urgency in getting this stadium deal done. And Stu's holding up development on the St. Pete side, on the Tropicana Field side, on the Tampa side, where they would possibly build a stadium, and expansion. So he doesn't have a whole lot of allies or friends right now.
And yet, something's going to have to give. Is there something that's going to be able to force his hand, or where do things go next?
Well, according to some of the reporting that we've done, and again, the Athletic, Ken Rosenthal, who was plugged in as anybody to the commissioner's office, Jeff Passan at ESPN, Evan Drelich also, all these guys are very plugged in, not as plugged in as I am in terms of the commissioner's office. I know much more about what's going on here locally. But basically, there is pressure to be put on Stu Sternberg. MLB has gone to such a drastic length as to publicly say they will take away his revenue sharing and other revenue that's at the behest of the commissioner's office and the other owners, which is an unprecedented step. No one's ever even hinted at that of another owner. And it just shows to you how the discourse is right now between the other owners and Stu Sternberg. So, yeah, I do believe they can put pressure on him in terms of those revenues. And if he doesn't have those revenues, he's going to lose a lot of money. So they can bring a lot of pressure. They've removed an owner here before, in Vince Smoley back in 2004. That's how Stu Sternberg got this team. So there's precedent to a removal of an owner. It's not easy, but there's ways to do it. There's pressure to bring. And I think Major League Baseball is going to do that, and especially when they know that they have people waiting in the wings that can get this deal done.
Last thing here, and let's talk a stadium in Tampa proper, because we know there are renovations coming to Raymond James, also talks of upgrades to Amalie Arena. So what impact do those things have on the attempt to put a new Rays stadium in Hillsborough County?
Well, it's a great question. And we've had Ken Hagan on, who's been the Hillsborough County Commissioner, chairman for a long, long time. And he knows the ins and outs of the financial part of this probably better than anybody. The SITS tax, the community investment tax that was just re-upped in the last election, is a key to this, because it opens up a lot of money that can be used for stadiums in all 3 areas. Other markets do this all the time. It's not impossible. One of the big wild cards here is we don't know exactly what the Bucs want. The Bucs have not come forward with a concrete plan. The Glazers have lots of money. They're building a stadium in Old Trafford of their other team, Manchester United. They're doing that in London, in Manchester. So they're very busy, and now they got to kind of focus in on what they want to get done here in Tampa.
We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back. Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. We are tracking some breaking news this afternoon where we learned that the Seminole County Commission has voted to remove fluoride from the water 4-1. So Seminole County becoming one of the latest localities to remove fluoride as an additive to the county's water supply. So something we are continuing to track. In other news out of Seminole County, a Seminole County man out and about ended up helping police take down a suspect and make an arrest. Joining us live now via Zoom is Fox 35's Randy Hildreth. And Randy, this isn't something you hear about every day.
No, Garrett, very honestly and candidly, when I got the arrest affidavit that walked through what detectives and what officers say happened, my jaw dropped. So I did have a chance to speak with Ricky Pine. That is the man who, as noted in the arrest affidavit, the citizen who jumped in to help law enforcement. I want to give context. He is a professional poker player. I asked him, well, have you even gone through one of those citizen police training courses? No. So he just was in the area, had dropped off his son for basketball practice and was walking around the park behind Seminole Hospital and saw what was going on and jumped in to help.
So what did he see, and what spurred him on to take action?
So as he was doing his Friday walks, as he was waiting for his son to get out of basketball practice, he noticed someone running across the street from the hospital towards the, not necessarily the basketball court, but near the basketball court right behind the hospital. And he said, and that caught his attention because why would someone be running so fast? And then he heard an officer yelling, freeze, freeze, freeze. And then he started to put the pieces of what was going on together. He saw two officers following that suspect who, according to the arrest affidavit and what's been confirmed by law enforcement, that person, Pedro Rivera, had escaped police custody and was trying to get away and landed right in front of him. And so as officers were trying to detain this person, they had tased him several times. During that tussle with the taser, the suspect was able to get the taser from one of the officers, pointing it at her, had bitten another officer, and he's watching all of this unfold in front of him. And as he's, doing his walk, it cuts his walk short, and he asks officers, is there anything that I can do to help you all? And he is shocked when they say yes. And so he says that he just kind of uses his body weight because he was bigger than the suspect to kind of pin that person down as more law enforcement arrived, and they were able to handcuff the suspect, and then take that person back towards the hospital. But just even as I'm retelling it, I cannot imagine what was going through his mind in that moment.
And this is something that's allowed?
Yeah. So in that moment, he says that officers asked and said that he can help them. He was not responsible for the entirety of the arrest. They were leading the arrest, but he was coming in to, I guess, provide additional muscle to help them take this person into custody. And when a third officer arrived, they were able to put him in handcuffs and then take that person back over to the hospital. So yes, we will definitely have to dig a little bit more into the legality. And one of the questions that I asked Mr. Pine after this is, would you do this again? And he says, I've had conversations with people who, were concerned about the potential liability of something like this. But he says, I felt called to help based on what I was seeing.
It certainly seems like it could be a dangerous situation to be in. Now, what police agency is this? And have you been able to, have they spoken about this?
Yeah, so we have been in contact with Altamont Police. They were in charge of the transport of this suspect. But this is a larger case that was conducted by the Seminole County Sheriff's Office. So you have two agencies who have worked on this investigation, but Altamont Police were in charge of that transport of the suspect, and those officers were involved in the escape. But Seminole County is the kind of the lead agency for this investigation because they were the original agency that was working on the investigation that involved this person.
All right.
And Altamont Police, they did not make a comment on this, and Seminole County did not make a comment on this.
All right. Interesting stuff. And like we said, certainly not something that you hear about every day. So we look forward to seeing your story.
Thank you.
Fox 35's Randy Hildreth joining us live this afternoon via Zoom. I want to go ahead and bring in Fox 35's Marie Ettinger, who is joining us live now via Zoom from Marion County, where we know a barn fire overnight killed nearly 24 horses. Fox 35's Marie Ettinger, thanks for joining us this afternoon. It's a really sad situation there. Do we know what happened to start this?
They're still working to learn what happened to actually spark the fire. And I'll just mention, you talked about the size of this 21 horses killed, and we're saying barn, but this was a 10,000 square foot building. It's massive that this fire broke out in. And because of the size and the total cost of the loss, that automatically triggers so that local officials have to turn things over to the state. And this was such a big deal that the state investigators actually called for help, asking for assistance from federal investigators. So the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms is going to be taking over the investigation into how this actually started. We know that it was around 4 a.m. A security guard called in saying that he saw the flame, saw the smoke. It was already fully engulfed by that point. And so he actually told the 911 dispatcher that he doesn't know how this happened, because he said he had just checked on that building about an hour ago. I'll flip the camera around to kind of give you a lay of the land a little bit here. You can't see the barn from here very well. There's just a little bit where you can kind of see smoke, but on the phone, I'm not sure how well you'll be able to tell. It's kind of something we have to zoom in towards. So we'll show that to you in our broadcast coming up at 5. But you can see just the area. This is a gigantic, gigantic property, actually a series of them that are dedicated to the Roberts Quarter Horse Farm. That's across the street there. You can see the entryway. This family has hundreds, actually, of quarter horses, which are short distance sprinters. That's what they're bred for, that particular breed. The number says that the property across the street where the fire actually broke out is still part of this family's property, but it is owned by their granddaughter, the granddaughter of the original Robertses. They're the ones who also own the World Equestrian Centers. They're a big, big deal in this community, really impactful. The fire chief talked about what a big deal horses are around here and said that he's just heartbroken for their loss. We did also reach out to the World Equestrian Center. They said that because they're obviously affiliated, they're owned by the same people, but this is a private entity separate from them, and so they didn't really want to weigh in. They just said their prayers and said that they were so sorry for this massive loss of life. There is something to be said, though, about how much worse this could have been. It was 21 horses killed, but there was a neighboring building that the firefighters were able to keep from getting on fire, as in they were able to stop the flames from spreading. There were horses in that other building too. So they were okay. I know people were hurt, but either way, I mean, this is just such a big loss in this community.
Yeah, devastating impact there. And you talk about how large the building was, the size of that fire. That sounds like it was probably a difficult job for firefighters to handle that.
Yeah, because they did get some warning ahead of time about the size, they were able to respond accordingly. And there is a fire station just a few minutes down the road, maybe like a 3-minute drive from here. But they treated it as a commercial fire after hearing the size. So that kind of helps them out just to know ahead of time. But again, by the time they got here, that building was fully engulfed. The roof was already collapsing. So they just were not able to save that building or the horses inside. It was kind of one of those nothing they can do at this point type of things. The fire chief said it's not unusual for fires that happen at night to be worse overall, just because people don't notice them. So there was that security guard who saw it. He said he'd been there an hour earlier. He doesn't understand how a fire, or been in the area an hour earlier, and he doesn't understand how a fire could have happened. But again, the property is massive. So even if flames might be slightly more noticeable at night, if you aren't looking in that direction, and then Obviously, there aren't as many people awake at 4 a.m. to notice that something was happening. It's just an unfortunate situation, but it is one that the fire investigators are going to be checking out. I talked to the fire chief in Marion County today about the purpose of determining the cause of the fire and why that really is so important for fire investigators. And he talked about how if there are codes that need to change, then that needs to happen. If there are safety measures that need to be put in place, if there's anything to be learned that could prevent something like this from happening in the future, they want to know it. That's why they try so hard to get to the bottom of things like this.
All right, Fox 35's Marie Ettinger, a sad situation there. We appreciate you joining us live from Marion County this afternoon.
Thanks, Garrett.
We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back with more Fox 35 News Plus after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Welcome back into Fox 35 News Plus. I'm Garrett Wymer. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday afternoon. It is Playbook Tuesday, as we call it, on Florida Live, our 2 o'clock streaming show that you can watch here on Fox Local and on YouTube, where we speak with a Politico Florida reporter and really get the latest on what's happening in state politics all around the Sunshine State. A big focus on things going on in Tallahassee right now as the legislative session continues. But I started out my conversation with Gary Fineout earlier today about Governor DeSantis spotted in at the national championship game in San Antonio last night with a state senator. Here was what Gary said about what we need to know about that.
Blaise Ingoglia, who is a state senator from Citrus County, basically posted some tweets about himself and the governor being right there at the game, and including Ingoglia at one point saying that the governor was cursing about the refs. And the interesting thing about all of that is that Ingoglia wants to be Florida's next chief financial officer, and basically, there he is with the governor, and the governor is the person who's going to pick that job by mid-May.
And so give us the latest on where things stand with that. We know outgoing CFO Jimmy Petronas had wanted someone picked by now. So where do things kind of stand with that replacement?
Well, the governor was asked about it, and he basically just said, well, I plan to get to it, but probably won't pick a permanent successor until mid-May. He disputed CFO Petronas's assertion where he suggested maybe there's some legal issues about paying the bills and whatnot. And he says everything is fine in terms of how they view it from their legal analysis. And so we don't have an acting CFO right now. Apparently, bills are being signed by Petronus's former chief of staff. But again, the governor is going to pick somebody permanently for the job. And the question remains, does he pick Blaise Ngolia, who he was at the game last night, or does he pick somebody like Joe Gruters, who President Trump has already endorsed for the position?
Meanwhile, sticking with Governor DeSantis here, and we know his criticism of House Republicans has really ramped up yet again.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. I mean, he's been pretty nonstop on that for the last couple of weeks. Whether it's videos, whether it's during press conferences, whether it's not in tweets. And he has been pretty much, just sort of continuing to say that he doesn't agree with what they're doing, what their agenda is, and that they're not focusing on the priorities that he wants them to. And so, I mean, we're kind of in the closing home stretch of the session. Don't know where everything's going to land, but yeah, it's kind of interesting.
How do House Republicans feel about being repeatedly called out like that?
Well, I mean, I think if you talk to them, they're not happy about it. Some of them are fighting back. Some of them are kind of going out on social media and taking shots at the governor and doing things about, saying, well, your agency didn't do this or your agency didn't do that. So they're kind of returning some fire with fire. But in the end, I mean, he is the governor and he can veto stuff. So, it'll be interesting to see whether or not they try to reach a peace between now and the end of session, which is the first week of May.
Talk to us on where some interesting pieces of legislation stand right now.
Well, the House and Senate are kind of apart on the budget, and this week they will both pass out their respective spending plans off the floors, and then they're supposed to try to reach a compromise, but they've got to reach a compromise on taxes because that kind of goes hand in hand with how much money you have to spend. And right now, the House has a plan to cut the sales tax by nearly 1%, but the Senate has so far not gone along with that. The governor doesn't want to do that right now either. He wants them to do something on property taxes. So they have to kind of work all that out to get the budget done. And then there's some other major stuff that hasn't really moved. We've seen really no progress on condos. The governor wanted them to do something to fix the condo problem that was created by the law that they passed a couple of years ago that put financial obligations upon condos. And yet the two bills that are in the mix right now are wildly disparate in their approach.
So is it fair to say that that's not going to happen then? Or is there still a chance?
Well, I don't want to say it's not going to happen. I'm just saying it's, they are running out of time and they have not reached a resolution.
So one other thing I know I saw you were tweeting about was the university presidential searches and some changes with that.
Yeah, there is a bill moving and it's kind of approaches on both the House and Senate are kind of in agreement on this. They want to undo the process that they put in place a couple of years ago on presidential searches. And that essentially is, it used to be at one point in time that anyone who wanted to apply to be a university president in Florida, your name became public when you applied. The law was changed to where only finalists were put into place. But what happened is there are kind of loopholes in the law. And so as you saw at the search at University of Florida, only one name ever was made public. And now the legislature is talking about going back to the way it used to. And, is the governor going to sign off on this? I have no idea. I haven't heard him talk about it.
So what do we need to keep our eyes on here, Gary, as things move forward?
I think you really need to keep an eye on the tax and budget issue because that's sort of going to be for lack of a word, that's the centerpiece. How that gets worked out will kind of dictate how things go between now and the beginning of May.
And do you anticipate that to be a contentious process going forward, given some of those differences in opinion that you were just touching on?
I anticipate the House and Senate leaders are going to have to reach a deal on how much money they are going to spend and how far they're going to cut taxes. And the question is, does the Senate go along with the House and go all the way over to their approach? Do they do something that they know that the governor may not like? And remember, at the end of the day, the governor could theoretically veto the entire budget. He could veto any tax cuts. If they don't have him in their corner, it could be problematic. And they don't have to have a budget fully in place until July 1st. And in years past, when they've had these disagreements, we've gone into overtime.
President Trump at the White House there, as we were playing that interview with Gary, signing some executive orders that have to do with energy and specifically the coal industry. You see a number of miners in the background there. 3 or 4 executive orders, it appears, that the president just signed in that event at the White House that is wrapping up right now. We're going to take a break here on Fox 35 News Plus, but we'll be right back after this.
You're watching Fox 35 News Plus, streaming on Fox Local.
Well, the celebrations of the Florida Gators men's basketball team, the 2025 national champions, those celebrations just getting underway. We know a lot of celebrations last night. They rally this afternoon, and a big event that's going to be going on Saturday. So earlier today, spoke with Kevin Brockway, the Florida Gators beat reporter from the Gainesville Sun, and we started by talking about the Gators' comeback in that national championship game last night.
You know, it's pretty amazing. You know, you're down 12 points, but I still felt like there was enough time for them to make a run if they could just chip away, get that lead under 10 points at the 10-minute mark, which they did. I mean, they went on a nice run really to get back into the game and get it to within 3 points. And then from there, it was really a battle of wills the final 10 minutes. And I thought, you know, the key of the game was just Florida matching Houston's physicality, coming up with the defensive stops that they needed, getting to the foul line, and finding a way to win at the end on a defensive play, which is somewhat ironic because, you know, last year defense was a struggle for this team, and it just showed the growth they made on both ends of the floor. And that's what it takes to win a national championship, is to be able to, you know, win games on both ends and get those stops when you need them.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was a lot of talk throughout the tournament, and we saw it time and time again with Houston's defense and what they were able to do. And they really, it seemed like early on, threw the Gators off their game. They didn't shoot well. Walter Clayton had one attempt for much of the first half, and then they kind of figured out a way to adjust, and also to make those key defensive stops that they needed to down the stretch.
Yeah, well, you know, I say they out Houston. They out rebounded them. They played more physical. They came up with the defensive stops. Offensively, it was a little bit of a struggle early on, but this coaching staff has shown a really an acumen to make adjustments to what defenses are throwing at them. And I felt like, Garrett, that was, you know, the second half, that was really the key. They kind of found some things that worked and stuck with them. They went to the free throw line. They attacked the basket. They got Houston's big guys in foul trouble a little bit. and it added up to being able to pull through down the stretch in a really tight ball game. High drama throughout. And it's kind of funny because the first two national championships I covered back in 06 and 07, those games didn't come down the wire like this one. I mean, those teams just kind of ran away and hid in those Final Four games. But this was a game that was really high drama throughout, and Florida found a way and came up with the clutch plays when they needed them.
What does this mean for the program?
I mean, that's interesting. One of the stories I'm going to write is Florida blue blood? Can they be called a blue blood now? This is the year 2000. They've been to 4 Final Fours. They've won 3 national championships in 25 years. That's a pretty good ledger for a basketball program. I think sometimes it gets a bad rap because of fan support and people look at it as a football state first, but on merit, I believe this is a blue blood program, based on what they've accomplished, in these last 25 years, to have that many national titles, to have that many to go to that many Final Fours. Excuse me, actually, it's 5 Final Fours since 2000. I'm forgetting about the 2014 team. So it's a pretty good record, right? Once out of every 5 years you go into a Final Four. That's a pretty good record for a basketball program.
So how does Todd Golden, I don't want to say build on this because it's hard to build on a national championship, but how do you, looking ahead to next year, how does he keep the momentum going?
Well, I think they got to keep the big guys, and I think they're gonna, based on everything that, I gleaned from the locker room last night, I would suspect that Alex Kahn and Tommy Houck are going to come back, along with Ruben Chinyelu and Micah Handlog. And so you've got the 4 big guys right there. You have the experience there. And then in the backcourt, Denzel Aberdeen, the kid from Dr. Phillips, is going to take on a bigger role next year. Isaiah Brown, another kid from the Orlando area, is a freshman, is very promising. And I think they'll go into the transfer portal, and add a few pieces there in the backcourt. And, I think that's, one of the things now, Garrett, with this being a national championship program, with Todd Golden being a coach on the rise, I think people are going to want to come play for him. And I think it's going to be helpful in terms of going out and getting, the high quality transfers that they want that can maybe fill some of the gaps, losing Clayton Martin and Will Richard, who that was another guy that really stepped up in the first half last night. Will Richard, with Walter Clayton struggling. Without him having that big first half, perhaps Florida doesn't stay in that game. So a lot of unsung heroes throughout, and it was really a great run. And it was, as always, I felt like a sum of the parts team where people tended to pick each other up, and that's the way it worked out for Florida this season. That's why they're national champions.
Yeah, you bring up a good point about Will Richard, because things weren't going right for the Gators in the first half, and it could have been his shots, 4 of 7 from 3, that really kept that within range for them to make those comebacks. So a team effort for all the attention that Walter Clayton Jr. has gotten throughout this tournament, and rightfully so. I mean, most outstanding player in the Final Four, impressive stuff, but this was certainly a team win, it seems like, Kevin.
Yeah, and it's amazing. You think about Walter Clayton. He became the first player since Larry Bird to score 30 or more in an Elite 8 game and a Final Four game. And then in a national championship game, he kind of struggles shooting a little bit, but he morphs into a role as a point guard. He has 11 points and 7 assists, sets other people up, doesn't try to do too much, works within the framework of the offense. But at the end, when they need a big shot, he came up with a big 3-pointer down the stretch. And made the defensive play late on that closeout that forced the turnover that won Florida the game. So really, a true all-around effort, and Walter Clayton proved he didn't have to be a scorer to impact the game in the national championship game.
Well, thanks for joining us on Fox 35 News Plus. We'll go ahead and hand things off to John and LuAnne for the start of Fox 35 News at 5, which begins in just seconds here on Fox Local.
Right now on Fox 35 News at 5. The Gators stun the Cougars, and now the national champions are back home in Gainesville with the gold.
National champion Florida Gators!
I am Sheriff Chitwood. I am the reason why you are here.
The Volusia County Sheriff waiting at baggage claim to give her a ride.
And I can guarantee you won't see Mickey on this trip.